Hello, I'm doing this video discussing some of the rabbinic understandings of the origins of Christianity. There's different places where we can look for rabbinic teachings regarding the origins of Christianity. One would be in the Mishnah Torah by the Rambam. Another one would be in the Talmud, where there's various little pieces of stories regarding Jesus. And then there's a collection of stories known as the Toledos Jesu. And also related to that is a commentary to Avodah Zarah 10a by Rashi, where he goes into a discussion similar to what we hear about in Toledos Jesu. For more information on these topics, I would recommend classes by Rabbi Dr. Shnayer Leiman, whose classes are available in Yeshiva University. He discusses the 9th of Teves. It's a fast day that people typically don't follow, but it's mandated through the Shulchan Aruch as a fast day, and the question as to why it was mandated as a fast day. And Rabbi Zev Leff, who in his discussions of Pirkei Avos, he has a couple of classes on the early days, the life of Jesus and the discussions of Toledos Jesu, a version that he has of this book. And so that's where you go for more information on this story. What I'm going to look at is specifically Toledos Jesu and Rashi's commentary on Avodah Zarah 10a that discusses what happened after Jesus died. After Jesus died, and you have what's called the early church, how did we wind up with what we have? In following Rabbi Dr. Shnayer Leiman's class, there's a source sheet available that's also available on the website with the class on it that gives the censored version of Rashi's commentary. And this is a spoiler alert because he kind of works towards this. And so this is the end of his class. He discusses this. Rashi, Avodah Zarah 10a is describing the Roman Empire and Edom and the festivals, the pagan festivals that were popular at that time. In there, Avodah Zarah refers to the book Obadiah. It's a biblical book, Obadiah, verse 2 states, referring to Edom as being the least among the nations. Now, Edom at the time of the Roman Empire, at the time of the Talmud, was also a reference to the Roman Empire. So in the Talmud, they're continuing where Obadiah says, "You are the least among the nations." The Talmud continues with, "Their script and language were borrowed from another nation." So that's to state that the Romans had a script and a language that was not their own. They were least among the nations, and they didn't even have their own language. Rather, they got it from someone else. Rashi's commentary to this continues, "Others wrote their books for them." Now, that's all we have on Rashi that's available in the regular Talmud that has the Rashi commentary. However, that's a censored Rashi commentary. And Dr. Rabbi Shnayer Leiman asked the question, how can we say that the Roman, even if we claim they had a script and a language they got from another nation, how can we say that others wrote their books for them? Because we know the Romans had their own books. So he's confused by this Rashi commentary. However, the rabbi speaks at the end of his shir. So this is a spoiler alert. Rashi's commentary in the censored part of the commentary continues. So others wrote their books for them, namely John, Paul, and Simon Peter. All of them Jews. Language refers to grammatica, the Latin spoken by the priests. They, the Jews, transformed the language into an obscure one in order to separate them from Israel. They, the Jews, were not apostates. Rather, they acted from the best of intentions so as to benefit the Jews. They impersonated priests and ordained all the Christian laws and customs and books, as is stated explicitly in the Toledot Jesu narrative. So the Toledot Jesu narrative, which here it varies somewhat from the Toledos Jesu book that we have available to us today. Apparently Rashi had an earlier version of this that stated these things as being three people who were authentic Jews. Now, according to Toledos Jesu, it refers to one person, and he was a rabbi who was sort of amongst the sages, and he went into a secretive, sort of a double agent role for the purpose of corrupting Christianity. The early Christianity was already corrupted, but his goal was to go in there to make it so corrupted that regular Jewish people would have nothing to do with it. And basically, the Toledos Jesu the description given refers to Paul, although the name given is Simon Bar Kopta, who I would suggest is part of the midrashic format, the parable format of Sefer Toledos Jesu. It seems to refer to Paul. And in the Rashi commentary, we have Paul as well as Simon, Peter, and John. So within these people who are described as authentic Jews, who in order to separate Christianity away from the Jewish people, created this New Testament, what we call the New Testament. And while the version of the Rashi commentary that Rabbi Dr. Shnayer Leiman had, there were certain differences between that and then what's available in the source sheet that's available on the same page, the same website. The other version does not actually explicitly say Latin. It just simply says the language of the priests. So it could refer to Greek, which we know the New Testament was first available in Greek. Maybe it was written in Latin and then translated into Greek, but it's typically understood it was first written in Greek. So either way, it's saying that these rabbis were the ones who created this obscure language. They took a language, either way, they took a language that was not something the Jewish people would use, Greek or Latin. It would not be acceptable to the Jewish people. And they wrote the books in those languages. And they created customs that were different from the Jewish customs. So the Jewish people would stay away from Christianity. Now I'm going to give my own extra amount, which you can take it or leave it, is that at the time that this happened, in the first century, there was a large, what we would today consider Noahide, but at the time it was called the God-fearers, a large group of non-Jewish people who were interested in Torah, interested in the God of Israel. And they were attaching themselves to the Jewish people. Now, when the Jewish people are strong, then 10 of the peoples of the world, 10 non-Jews, 10 Gentiles can attach themselves to a Jew, but the Jewish people are strong so they can handle that, and they can go and they can worship God. That works when the Jewish people are strong. When the Jewish people are not strong, which is what happened at about the same time that this was all happening, the Jewish people, the second temple was destroyed, and the beginnings of the Roman exile was occurring at this time. The Jewish people were in a state of flux. They were in a state of difficulty. And when that happens, it's not safe for a lot of Gentiles to be, at that point, they'll be pulling the Jewish people down. Instead of the Jewish people lifting the Gentiles up, the Gentiles will be pulling them down. So there was a necessity at that time to separate the non-Jews away from the Jews. So I would argue that the creation of Christianity also served the purpose not only of protecting the Jewish people from this heresy of Jesus, but also served the purpose of giving the God-fearers of the day something to work with, something that they would be attracted to and they would follow. Thus, protecting the Jewish people and at the same time helping the God-fearers while they would also be going through a parallel time of exile. Today, we find a lot of the God-fearers coming out of Christianity, rediscovering the Judaism, rediscovering the path of the Noahide. And we should also appreciate, while we understand that these are mistakes that exist in Christianity, much of the Christian doctrines are mistakes. They're not totally correct. Well, we should still appreciate what these people, what John, Paul, and Simon Peter did for the God-fearers, for the Noahides. We should appreciate them and hold them in a certain measure of respect. I hope this gives people something to think about and discuss. Thank you.